To use the Distorto computer, just choose your favorite little rascal from the pictures on the right. Then, click on one of the Distorto buttons below and watch what happens. Click on the Read Out Loud button or turn the page to begin reading. The Little Rascals Interactive Movie Book. Chapter 1, The Big Meeting, or How Alfalfa Became a She-Man-Woman Lover. Spanky, the leader and president of the He-Man-Woman Haters Club, knew he could count on Petey the dog to round up the club members in record time. Today was an important day for the future of the HMWHC, and all the members were required to attend a special secret all-important meeting, or else. Only boys who knew the secret hand signal were allowed inside the clubhouse. Butch and Warm, the neighborhood bullies, were hanging around outside. They were notorious for picking on, beating up, and generally making miserable any member of the club they came across. They were definitely not getting in. President Spanky entered the clubhouse and took his place at the podium. The annual go-kart derby was the following weekend, and it was time to pick this year's driver.
All right, men, let's talk about the pride of our club, the Blur. The Blur has never been beaten since the beginning of time, by years. This Sunday we defend our honor, our undefeated streak, and our trophy. Yeah! Best of all, this year's trophy will be presented by none other than the famous Indy race car driver, A.J. Ferguson. Wow, he's the best driver in the whole world.
Man, can I have an Azuga?
Hey, nice Azuga. And now the reason for the emergency meeting, the choosing of the driver.
A driver should be a man who's all He-Man.
A He-Man so manly that if he fell off a building, he'd go out of his way to land on a girl. John, this year, our driver's name is none other than my lifelong chum, my best buddy in the whole wide world, the one and only Alfalfa.
They chose Alfalfa by picking his name out of a hat. They were sure to win with him driving. Now all they had to do was find him. Chapter 2, The Love Boat, or How to Save a Drowning Rascal. The Rascals discovered their fearless driver in a rowboat with, of all things, a girl. From the bridge above, the Rascals eavesdropped on the floating love nest. They couldn't believe their ears. Alfalfa was denouncing the ways of his woman-bashing buddies. He said he was in touch with his feminine side. Ugh. Darla was so impressed with Alfalfa, she suggested that they sing together in the talent contest at the county fair. Alfalfa was thrilled with the idea and suggested a picnic the following day to celebrate. Darla smiled sweetly at Alfalfa. Why don't we have our picnic in your clubhouse?
Hey, I've got an idea. Let me take you on a picnic tomorrow. Excuse me? So while you feed my soul, I can feed your face.
Cool. And to prove you're proud of me, why don't we have our picnic in your clubhouse?
No! Tomorrow Tomorrow? Swimming day. Sure. Oh, Alfalfa, you're a sweet poo. Yeah.
The he-men could barely contain their rage. They couldn't believe that Alfalfa would give in to Darla's potent dose of girl magic. Worse, Alfalfa planned to lie to his buddies to make a date with her. Somehow, the Rascals had to save Alfalfa. They would have to ruin the romantic repast no matter what. After telling the guys he had a toothache, Alfalfa set out to meet Darla. Unfortunately, he hadn't counted on bumping into Butch and Warm along the way.
All right, Warm. Ready for the test run? Ready, Butch! Look! There goes our bumper! All this work for nothing! Everything's working out perfectly. The guys are at the swimming hole, and I'm at home with a toothache. Nothing can possibly go wrong. Hiya, Butch. Shut up! When's the last time we beat you up? Let's see. Today's the 10th. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. It's not a leap year. Yesterday.
When Alfalfa finally arrived at Darla's, he was quite a sight. Darla accepted his gift demurely, a ragtag bunch of wilting daisies. Just as Darla and Alfalfa prepared to leave for the picnic, they were interrupted by a visitor. He was the new boy in town, Waldo Aloysius Johnston III. He was blond and very rich, and Alfalfa was immediately wary of him. Darla, on the other hand, was immediately smitten. "What a hunk," she gushed to her friends. Chapter 3, Barbecue for Two, or Ashes, Ashes, We All Fall Down. By the time Alfalfa and Darla arrived at the clubhouse for their candlelit lunch, Spanky and the boys had a list of surprises ready.
A candlelit lunch, I'm dazzled.
Excuse me. I seem to have a little farfagnugan.
No problem.
Grape soda?
Yes, please. To us.
This tastes like somebody poured it from an old boot.
Actually, it's a sneaker.
Despite their worst intentions, however, the Rascals knew they had failed to free Alfalfa from Darla's wicked web. Alfalfa presented Darla with a ring and got a kiss in return. "It's time to break up this cozy little love nest," declared Spanky. Alfalfa nearly jumped out of his shoes when he heard the banging at the front door. "Oh, no," he cried. "Well, what's the matter?" asked Darla. In my haste to eat, I forgot to give you the tour. Here's the closet." And with that, he shoved her in and slammed the door. Alfalfa emerged from the clubhouse. "Hiya, guys," he said, trying to act innocent. "Hey, I smell smoke," someone cried. "Fire," yelled another. Then they heard a loud crash. Darla had rammed the blur through the back wall of the clubhouse to escape the flames. Alfalfa couldn't believe his eyes and promptly passed out.
You two call the fire department. Yes, sir.
The Rascals hovered over Alfalfa. "This is all your fault, bud," proclaimed Spanky. Alfalfa turned his head away from the guys, just in time to see Darla leave on the arm of that creep Waldo. Then he saw the charred remains of the clubhouse. "Oh, no!" He groaned and passed out again. Chapter 4. A Hangman's Jury, or No Mercy for the Traitor. The next day, the court of the He-Man Woman Haters Club handed down its sentence on the traitor Alfalfa. Stammy read the order out loud. "You are hereby ordered to serve round-the-clock guard duty of the blur." Alfalfa groaned. "And," Stammy continued, "you are banned from talking to or even thinking about Darla ever again." That night it rained. Alfalfa was all alone in the tent, tossing and turning in his sleep. He was having a strange dream.
Tell me you'll never leave me. I'll never leave you. That's it, traitor. We must slay you before your forbidden love destroys our manly bond. Choose or die! 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 Ease up, Pat. It's just us. We came to keep you company.
"Choose or die, choose or die," was all he remembered when he was awakened by Spanky, Stymie, Froggy, Buckwheat, Porky, and Petey. They had come to keep him company. "Face it, Alfalfa," Stymie observed. "Guys and babes is just different." "You said it," chimed in Froggy.
Giggling and gossiping. Fighting and farting. Barbies and bracelets. Boogers and bugs. Ice skating. Bungee jumping.
Synchronized swimming.
And trying to get them to sit still. Fight! Girls! And the worst thing of all, they smell weird!
It was unanimous. The boys all thought girls were weird, and the girls all thought boys were gross. So why were they all thinking about each other? The next morning, it was time to rebuild the clubhouse. Unfortunately, they discovered that the lumber they needed cost $450. "Where are we going to get that kind of dough?" cried Spanky. They tried to get a loan from a bank, but it was no use. "We're never going to get that money," croaked Froggy. Chapter 5. This tutu's for you, or a frog for your thoughts. Back at the clubhouse, Porky and Buckwheat watched Alfalfa to make sure he was watching the blur. Alfalfa was miserable. He had to fix things with Darla. "I'll send her a note," he announced. "No way," said Porky and Buckwheat. "Guys, you don't understand. It's a hate note, and you two are going to deliver it for me." Alfalfa wrote out a sweet love note to Darla. While writing, Alfalfa recited to Porky and Buckwheat all sorts of mean things.
I know. I'll write a message, and you two can take it to her.
Wait a second. We're he-man woman haters. We can't deliver love notes.
Love note? No, this is going to be a hate note.
Sounds good to me.
Dear Darla, I hate your stinking guts. You make me vomit. You're scum between my toes. Love, Alfalfa. Okay.
Convinced it was a hate note, they marched off to deliver it to Darla. Unfortunately, Buckwheat delivered the verbal note, not the written one. Darla was furious. "Alfalfa, it's time you dumped Darla once and for all," Spanky declared. Then he dragged Alfalfa to Darla's dance recital to break it off. While they waited outside the hall for Darla, Spanky gave Alfalfa a frog to cheer him up. Suddenly, Butch and Wham spotted them. Spanky and Alfalfa quickly ducked inside to hide. "Quick, in here," Spanky whispered. They slipped quietly behind a door marked costume room. The place was loaded with extra tutus, wigs, and leotards.
Whoops! Whoops!
Hiya, big boy.
Whoa! Ditto! Say, you two chicklets see a couple of ugly mugs who ran in here?
You mean besides you? I think they went in there.
Thanks, dollface.
Bye.
Butch and Wham were right outside. They had no choice but to disguise themselves as girls. Praying the costumes would work, they confronted the bullies and sent them in the wrong direction. "Whew, that was close," said Spanky. "Let's change and get out of here." They went to get their clothes, but accidentally walked straight into the girls' dressing room. Just then, the teacher came in and herded them all onto the stage. Quickly, Alfalfa handed Spanky the frog. "Get rid of it," Spanky whispered, and stuffed it into Alfalfa's tutu.
Get rid of it. Come here, hold my hand. Are you nuts?
Alfalfa and Spanky were pretty embarrassed by their dance debuts. In the end, though, Spanky was pretty pleased. Darla was sure never to speak to Alfalfa again, especially after he was chased around town in his underwear by Butch and Warm, and ended up naked in Waldo's pool. Darla was not impressed.
I'll let myself out. Thank you.
Well, you better.
Look out! Alfalfa! This is kind of you I never seen before.
Chapter 6. Step Right Up, or This Freak's for You. On the first day of the county fair, the Rascals headed down to the fairgrounds with a plan to make some fast cash. They hung up some sheets to make a booth and put out a sign reading, "Spanky's Believe It or Else." "Everybody loves a freak show," Spanky declared. "This is going to be a piece of cake." When everything was ready, Stymie and Spanky stood outside the booth, dressed in showman's attire. "Ladies and gentlemen, enter if you dare," cried Spanky. "See freaks of nature," shouted Stymie. "It's a good show." Slowly people entered the tent at the price of $0.25 each.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, enter if you dare. See the weird freak of nature. Even science can't explain it. It's a really good show. Step right up and witness this hideous mutant. Amazing. Incredible. 4-foot man-eating chicken.
The freak show didn't quite live up to its billing, however. Stuck his head up through a table as the man with no body. The crowd oohed and awed until his hand appeared from under the table and swatted at a fly. In the end, the crowd demanded their money back as each so-called freak was exposed as a fraud. Unbeknownst to the rest of the Rascals, Porky and Buckwheat had devised a plan of their own to make some cash. Spanky, Stymie, Froggy, and the other Rascals arrived at the talent show to find Buckwheat and Porky charging everybody to enter. It was ingenious. "I'll take over now," Spanky announced grandly.
Come on, Spanky, so things didn't quite pan out. Didn't quite pan out? We had less money than when we came. Hey, I thought the talent show was supposed to be free. Look at all that money. What's going on? We just put up the sign, and people started paying us. Buckwheat, Porky, you're geniuses. Thanks. Look, how about if I take over and give you guys a break? Okay.
Spanky McFarland.
Miss Crabtree!
Spanky McFarland. It was their teacher, Miss Crabtree. She was beautiful. "You've tricked all these people out of their money," she scolded. We can't give it back to each person one by one. Now what are we gonna do? Spanky had an idea. Why don't we use the money as first prize in the go-kart derby? Chapter 7. Putting the talent in talent show. Or, bubble, bubble, we're all in trouble. While the guys were at the fair, Alfalfa was stuck guarding the blur. He was starting to think that maybe Spanky had been right about girls. But just then, he came across Spanky's sabotage checklist. "It's that sleazeball Spanky's fault that Darla hates me," he yelled. "I pray it's not too late to win back the heart of my beloved." Alfalfa jumped in the blur and headed to the fairgrounds. He arrived at the show just in time to see Darla perform with Waldo. He was more determined than ever to win Darla back. "Time to warm up the old vocalizer," he thought. And with that, Alfalfa poured himself a glass of water and began practicing his love song. "What are you doing here?" Waldo asked, seeing Alfalfa backstage. "I am winning back Darla's heart through song," Alfalfa retorted, and turned his back on Waldo. "This dweeb hasn't got a chance," Waldo thought. But just to make sure, he spiked Alfalfa's water with a squirt of dish soap. "That'll fix him." Meanwhile, Alfalfa had forgotten all about watching over the blur. He had left it alone and unguarded. Unfortunately, Butch and Warm had seen Alfalfa arrive.
Well, fellas, the president saved your bacon. I convinced Miss Crabtree to use the money as first prize in the go-kart derby. Yeah! Just think, in 3 days, the money's ours.
Everything else may have gone wrong, but there's no way we can lose the race.
Yeah. The blur belongs to Butch and Warm.
They couldn't believe their good fortune. Butch slipped into the driver's seat of the prize-winning go-kart. "The blur belongs to Butch," he hissed. Back at the talent show, Alfalfa made his entrance on stage. "What's he up to now?" grumbled Spanky. Alfalfa raised his glass of water to the crowd and said, "First a toast to Darla." Then he took a big gulp. Darla squirmed in her seat. Alfalfa began singing and burped up bubbles all over the audience. It was awful. Chapter 8. A Clash of Tiny Titans, or How to Lose Your Best Friend. Alfalfa left the stage in a cloud of bubbles. Spanky stopped him in his tracks. "That was the most disgusting display of she-man-woman loving I've ever seen," Spanky exclaimed. "Don't you talk to me, you Benedict Arnold," Alfalfa snapped back. The Rascals watched in shock as the two chums traded insults. "You're supposed to be guarding the go-kart, you muzak-warbling wimp," yelled Spanky. "Relax, you double-crossing mud muncher. I parked it right over there," Alfalfa retorted, pointing toward the back of the talent show tent. The Rascals all marched behind Alfalfa as he led the way to an empty parking spot. The blur was gone. The Rascals glared at Alfalfa. Alfalfa swallowed hard. The blur was really gone. It was time for drastic action, thought Spanky. It was time to clear the ranks of the He-Man Woman Haters Club of all sissified woman lovers.
It was right here. Well, where is it?
Boy, you're messing up left and right.
That's it, you sissified tree bird. I wish I had a club to throw you out of.
Me too.
Well, you sewer-swinging slime ball, if there still was a club, I'd quit. Hmm.
Alfalfa was out. He turned his back on his former buddies and stomped off alone. The next day was a lonely one for the Rascals. They were nothing without the club, or without each other. Stymie knew he had to get Spanky and Alfalfa to apologize to each other before the club could be saved. "You guys have been best friends since you were one," he reminded Spanky. "You gotta work it out," he advised Alfalfa. Spanky found Alfalfa hanging around the burned-down clubhouse. They apologized to each other for all the mean things they'd said and all the bad things that had happened. Just then, Stymie arrived. "Hey, you guys, you burned down a clubhouse, not a club," he observed. "The important thing is being buddies." Chapter 9. The Blur 2, the sequel, or The Art of Rebuilding a Legend. The first order of business for the Rascals was to build a new go-kart. If they were going to resurrect the clubhouse, they had to win the go-kart derby prize money. "With all of us working together," Spanky cried, "there's nothing we can't do." Quickly, they drew up plans for a new go-kart and began gathering the parts. The Rascals scoured the neighborhood, collecting the components for their new street demon. Spanky worked like a surgeon, assembling the various parts. When he was done, they dubbed their new buggy the Blur 2, the sequel. Spanky handed Alfalfa the keys and said, "Do us proud, buddy."
Screwdriver.
Screwdriver.
Ratchet, ratchet. Hey, does it stink in there? Monkey wrench. Tom, do us proud, buddy. You betcha.
The day of the big race finally arrived. At the starting line, Butch and Wham pulled up next to Spanky and Alfalfa in a silver and black cart named the Beast. Spanky leaned over to Alfalfa and said, "Say, that looks just like the Blur with a new paint job." Just then, Waldo pulled up in a sleek, turbocharged racing machine. Suddenly inspired, Alfalfa climbed out and attached Dollar's handkerchief to the Blur 2's hoard ornament. "A knight always wears his lady's colors into battle," Alfalfa proclaimed. "I'm not hearing this," Spanky said, covering his ears. Unknown to Alfalfa, Darla was riding with Waldo. She smiled to herself at Alfalfa's romantic gesture. Not far away, Porky and Buckwheat were on their way to the fairgrounds to watch the race. No one noticed as they accidentally pointed one of the race course arrows in the wrong direction. They arrived just as the starter announced, "Gentlemen, start your engines." The crowd cheered as the green flag dropped and the race began. Chapter 10, A Big Finish, A New Beginning, or A Happy Ending for All. Waldo, Butch, and Alfalfa jumped to an early lead. They jockeyed for position with each other as they whizzed by the course markers. They didn't notice the frantic waves of the race official as they missed one of the turns. They headed off the course and onto the city streets.
Rascals! Sorry!
Miraculously, they all found their way back to the race course. Butch was furious. Alfalfa had managed to get in the lead. Butch pulled out a smoke bomb and threw it perfectly, sticking it to the front of the blur tube. Alfalfa was blinded by the smoke. Surprisingly, Waldo drove alongside Alfalfa and doused the bomb with his fire extinguisher. As they came to the final turn, Alfalfa, Waldo, and Butch were tied for the lead. Suddenly, Darla's handkerchief broke loose and landed squarely across Alfalfa's face. He scrambled onto the hood to replace it, but got stuck. As they crossed the finish line, Alfalfa's cowlick stuck out just far enough to win the race.
Grab the wheel! Are you crazy or something? We got a finish line to cross! Not without this! You're nuts! Watch out, you're gonna fall! Behind me!
After Alfalfa and Spanky's victory, Butch and Warm were plenty mad. "I'm really gonna kick your butt now, you freak," Butch hissed at Alfalfa. To everyone's surprise, Alfalfa rolled up his sleeves and decked Butch, who fell backward and landed in a pigsty. The rascals all laughed as Butch wiped mud from his face. Just then, Waldo, still wearing his helmet and visor, approached the celebrating rascals. As Spanky started to thank him for helping them win the race, a limo drove by with Waldo in the back. Then who's this guy who saved our butts? Asked Spanky. The helmet came off to reveal Darla. Spanky owned up to wrecking Darla and Alfalfa's picnic. I just thought you were trying to ruin our club, he confessed. I guess I was wrong. Later, after the Rascals had rebuilt the clubhouse, they put a new sign on the door. It read, He-Man Woman Haters Club. Women welcome.
So, do you live around here?
Yeah. You like dolls?
I do.
Cool.
Say, have we betrayed our forefathers? Have we trampled on the generations of honest woman haters who came before us? Hey, everybody! Oz learned a new word. Actually, I've always had a rather extensive vocabulary, not to mention a phenomenal grasp of grammar and the superlative command of syntax. I simply chose not to employ them. Well, I guess things just have to change sometimes.